This is Screen Test, brought to you by Kins 5, and we are going to the Oscars, breaking down the films and performances nominated for the 6 major awards ahead of the 2021 Academy Awards. I'm Jackson Floyd.
And I'm David Lynch, and in this video, we are breaking down the Best Supporting Actor field, the narratives, who we think will win, who we think should win. So let's move on to the nominees. They are Sacha Baron Cohen for Trial of the Chicago 7, Lakeith Stanfield for Judas and the Black Messiah, Daniel Kaluuya for Judas and the Black Messiah, Paul Raci for Sound of Metal, and Leslie Odom Jr. for One Night in Miami. Jackson, what are your thoughts when you see that lineup?
You know, for the most part, these are representatives of strong ensemble casts, right? Trial of the Chicago 7, for instance, just won Best Ensemble Cast at the SAG Awards. And you have Sacha Baron Cohen representing that group. Leslie Odom Jr. As the standout performance from what was a tremendous ensemble in One Night in Miami. Paul Raci, not an ensemble, but just an outstanding, probably the breakthrough of the year, I would say, in terms of performances. And then the two representatives from Judas and the Black Messiah, Lakeith Stanfield and Daniel Kaluuya. With those two representatives, David, is there someone else you would like to see in the mix? Is there a nominee that might be missing from the field here?
So not necessarily someone I would rather see, but on nomination morning, it definitely was the big shocker that Stanfield snuck in there, simply because when it comes to discussion of Judas and the Black Messiah and which actor there would be represented, that the conversation simply was all with Daniel Kaluuya, who he's been at the forefront of that conversation ever since the first trailers for Judas and the Black Messiah dropped back in July or August. He's at the forefront of that trailer with such, he just grabs your attention. And all the way back then, people were like, he's got a nomination locked up, if not the win. So, it was the nomination morning shocker that Stanfield snuck in there, especially when I think on that morning in March, you saw some other potential nominees who were gaining some potential. You saw Alan Kim, the young breakout star of Minari, who had just recently enchanted everyone who tuned into, I believe it was the Golden Globes, and he had won the Best Actor Award from the Critics' Choice Association. There was some other supporting nominee potential for some of the actors from One Night in Miami. Ben Kingsley is one of my favorite performers of the year. Aldous Hodge, as well as anyone else from Trial of the Chicago 7. I personally think that if I were to pick one superior representative of that group, it would have been Mark Rylance over Sacha Baron Cohen. But instead, we got Sacha Baron Cohen, and instead of some of those other names that I mentioned, we have Lakeith Stanfield, and Judas and the Black Messiah has 2 nominees in this category.
Yeah, if you're going to pick a different representative from Trial of Chicago 7, I think Mark Rylance is a strong candidate. I personally preferred Yahya Abdul-Mateen's performance. Just an amazing performance in that movie. Though
Absolutely.
So it makes sense to go with someone like Cohen or Rylance in that sense. Fast fact for you, David. The last time an actor or actress won the Oscar over a co-star in the same category was 2018. Sam Rockwell did it for 3 Billboards over Ebbing, Missouri, over Woody Harrelson. And it also happened in 2012 when Octavia Spencer took home the award for The Help over Jessica Chastain. All that being said, David, it's not out of the realm that Daniel Kaluuya or Lakeith Stanfield could take home the award. Who do you think will win?
The momentum has been with Daniel Kaluuya, and I think that fate will come to pass, and he's going to grab his first Oscar win. Always when you have these instances where you have 2 co-stars of the same movie vying over the trophy, there's possibility of category fraud. It didn't happen in 2018 when Sam Rockwell won over Woody Harrelson, and I think a big reason of that is because if you remember, the narrative had really solidified around Sam Rockwell early on, and he just carried that momentum all the way to a win. It's kind of the same thing playing out here with Daniel Kaluuya. He's just garnered so much of that momentum early on that I think it'll eventually carry over to a win, even over his co-star. He's won all the right precursors. He won the Golden Globe. He won the SAG Award. He won the Critics' Choice Association Award. So I think he's going to carry that momentum into a win. And this is his second Oscar nomination after Get Out. And instead of pushing his win 30 years down the line in a career retrospective appreciation award, I think the Academy is keen on saying, hey, listen, this is one of the best young stars we have right now. He's explosively great in every performance he does, and he's done all kinds of different performances that we should honor him right now, and I think he's going to turn that narrative into a win on Oscar night as at this point.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think this is a category primed for an upset.
Right.
Kaluuya has won every award leading up to this point, and everything is trending in that direction. I do think there is some noise to be made for Paul Raci
Sure.
here. Do you think Kaluuya should win over Raci?
It depends on the day they were asking, and at this point, as we're recording this, it should be noted we're still 2.5 weeks away from the Oscars. They air at the end of April after this expanded eligibility window. We still have to see what the BAFTAs have to say this weekend, as well as a couple other precursor awards to see which movie might have a little more momentum. But I love those two performances equally as much. You know, Kaluuya is the big showy, explosive performance but it's also the rare performance where he gives kind of a dimension and a complexity to that showiness. He has his quieter moments as well. It's not just all bombast. And then on the antithesis of that, you have Paul Raci, who is an actor in his 70s. And if viewers of the video might not recognize that name, it's because he's been a virtual unknown for decades. He's worked for 40 plus years just going by on day jobs of getting one or two lines in TV show appearances. And it was by a stroke of luck that he managed to get in this performance. And he also told the New York Times that after his Sound of Metal breakthrough, he's now had like half a dozen roles offered to him, which he says has never happened before in his life. So he's the underdog in the story, and more than worthy. He gives such a good performance in that movie opposite of Riz Ahmed, coaching Riz Ahmed's character through this new stage of his life where Riz Ahmed's character's lost his hearing. And Raci brings a little bit of his own experience into that role because of himself being the child of parents who don't have their own sense of hearing. So, and you know, you feel that in his performance. He breathes that experience into the performance. He knows what he's saying. He's not just reciting lines. He's arguably the soul of that movie, and really just a scant few scenes in that movie, but he's really fantastic. I wouldn't be mad if either Kaluuya or Raci won it.
Yeah, you talk about a performance of a lifetime, and there's two ways to kind of define that phrase, and I think Raci hits both of them. You know, just a lifetime of experiences leading up to this. You talk about parents who are deaf and living and experiencing that. He already knew sign language for this role. He's also an Army vet, and he's playing an Army vet, so he brings all of that experience to it as well. It was a breakthrough experience. For those who might not have recognized him before them, I urge you to go back and watch the Parks and Rec episode Possum. I think the Possum is where he has a cameo appearance. Two antithesis roles right here between Kaluuya and Raci. One's just a loud, bombastic performance with moments of quiet. Paul Raci maintains that just quiet edge the entire time. But they're both the heartbeat and the lifeblood of each of their own respective films. So I think they're both deserving of the win. I go back and forth on it as well, David, though I do think Kaluuya might be the one taking it home. How outraged would you be if it wasn't one of those two, though? On a scale of 1 to 5, where do you put yourself on the outrage meter?
Maybe a 2.5, mainly because I would be more surprised than outraged, just given how much that out of the 4 acting categories that we're breaking down, this one that at this point in time seems like the biggest lock for Daniel Kaluuya. I think it would be interesting to see what would happen if any of the other winners end up triumphant. No matter who else wins, it would be no matter who wins in this category, it would be a first time acting win for no matter who wins here. You know, as Leslie Odom Jr., it makes sense that he's the representative of the One Night in Miami ensemble, because not only does he put in a fantastic performance, but he also, sings. So it's a multifaceted performance that the Academy traditionally likes. Sacha Baron Cohen is a big showy performance that I think is a little bit having to do more with the dialogue than his performance itself. But I'd be more surprised than outraged if anyone other than Kaluuya wins, mainly because the momentum has been on the side all this time. Everyone seems to love Daniel Kaluuya. We all want to see the next thing that he's going to do right away. And so I think that narrative around him will solidify into a win on Oscar night.
Yeah, I think I would be outraged if it wasn't Kaluuya or Raci. Maybe 4 on that scale, because those two are far and away some of my favorite performances of the year.
Sure.
But I think we're trending in that direction where it's going to be one of those two. It's overwhelmingly looking like Kaluuya, but we have to see how it plays out. All that being said, though, with 2 nominees in this field for Judas and the Black Messiah, is this a little bit of category fraud? I mean, it's not necessarily the picture, the film, the production company putting Lakeith Stanfield up for Best Supporting Actor. They actually ran him as Best Actor, but the Academy decided to run both of them as Best Supporting Actor. All that being said, those 2 performances compared side by side, is there an argument to be made that Lakeith Stanfield might have been better than Kaluuya in this movie? He's got less to work with. I know Kaluuya's got the fat to chew, right? He's got big bombastic speeches. There's something to be said about the subtlety in Stanfield's performance as he kind of psychologically breaks down over the course of this film.
Yeah, the argument can be made, and there's room for the argument to be made. I think part of part of why we may have been taking Stanfield's performance for granted, especially ahead of Oscar nomination morning, is because he's done such a good job. He's made basically a career out of playing like nearly frenzied characters with turmoil in inner emotional states, and he's never been anything less than outstanding in any of the movies he's in, whether it's Knives Out, whether it's Get Out, whether it's Sorry to Bother You. And I think he's really been able to. He's the model for being able to give a dynamism and a range to a certain kind of performance. You can make the argument that he's better than Kaluuya here. Like you mentioned, that the psychological breakdown is kind of at the forefront of the movie, and the movie kind of morphs itself around that kind of performance as it goes on, which is why a lot of people would argue that he is the lead over Daniel Kaluuya. The implications of that narratively notwithstanding, whether you think it should have been centered on Daniel Kaluuya's character of Hampton or of Fred Hampton or not. But you can make the argument that he gives a more impressive performance simply by virtue of it being a more complicated performance and, layering certain elements of this performance together of what the audience knows versus what characters around him know.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll always remember Lakeith Stanfield as the rapper in Short Term 12, just a dynamic performance there as well. Again, an emotional performance of a guy going through kind of a psychological trauma. And
if Stanfield were to pull this off, he would make it three performers from Short Term 12 that would go on to be future Oscar winners between Rami Malek and Brie Larson. So, that movie is aged nicely as far as that.
There you go. So go back and watch Short Term 12 for all those great performances. And also make sure to go watch all of the other videos we're doing breaking down the awards. As we wrap up Best Supporting Actor, you can find all of those on YouTube. Just hit the subscribe button below. And of course, find more from Screen Test at kens5.com/screentest. I'm Jackson.
And I'm David Lynch. And make sure to check kens5.com/screentest a little bit closer to Oscar nomination night, where we'll have predictions for all categories, as well as perhaps maybe a sixth nominee that we would have liked to see nominated as well. Thank you for watching.